One is an American businessman and entrepreneur, the CEO of MyPillow, and the other is Vice Chairman and Director of Phoenix Biotechnology. Please welcome to the show, Mike Lindell and Andrew Whitney. So we're here with these two great gentlemen, Mike Lindell and Andrew Whitney. Andrew, I want to start with you, okay? You are the CEO. Are you the CEO of this biotechnology company?
I'm the vice chairman, ma'am.
You're the vice chairman of this biotechnology company. Please tell us, what is it that you all make, and how is it that you all could possibly have a cure for COVID-19?
So we're not allowed to just leap in and announce that we have a cure until we've done a few more tests and things, but we'll come on to that. And what we do have is something very, very promising that I'd love to share with you. Our company has been investigating and researching a molecule called oleandrin for 25 years. We probably know more about oleandrin than anyone else on the planet. And we've got some really, really smart people who work in our scientific team that have been conducting this research, along with very, very prestigious institutions like MD Anderson and the University of Texas Medical Branch and the US Army's Fort Detrick research labs. So lots and lots of very prestigious institutions have worked with us on this over the years. So that's what we do. We look at this particular molecule. Now, this molecule, where does it come from? It comes from a plant called Nerium oleander. It's a plant that's native to America. It grows all over the place, but it's commonly known as the oleander plant. And the first thing people say is, oh my gosh, the oleander plant is toxic. And it's true. If you went out into your yard and you started munching the leaves, it wouldn't be good for you. Okay. But there are a lot of things in nature that are not good for you if you just start consuming too much of it. That includes nutmeg. It includes alcohol, menthol, Botox. I mean,
cinnamon.
I mean, all these things. Yes. I mean, Botox is a neuro blocker. I mean, so the point is, there are lots of things out there that if you take too much of it, it's not good for you. So we researched this molecule, and the way to think about this molecule is like a tiny fraction of the overall plant. The same way you can think about a barrel of crude oil. You can't run your car on that, but if you have the knowledge and the know-how and the equipment, you can extract the tiny fraction within that barrel of crude oil called gasoline, and you can very easily and successfully and safely run your car on gasoline. So think about oleandrin as a tiny subset of the overall oleander plant. So
what you are abstracting from that particular plant is a molecule, okay, that you all have been studying for over, what, 20 years?
Yeah, 25 years, quarter of a century.
Can I ask, is this here used in any other type of medication?
Yes, ma'am, it is. So we originally did the research on it because it has very, very interesting effects for cancer therapy. And there are very extensive number of research papers published on the effect of oleandrin on certain types of cancer. And that was what we were originally testing it on. And we actually did human safety trials on this. So it was tested for safety in humans. And this is published data. This is out there in the world. You can find it. We can share it with you. It's on our website, but you can also find it online. So we know it's safe in humans because we went through FDA. It's called phase 1 and 2 safety testing. And that's where they figure out if it's safe in humans. And we already did that. So we already know it's safe in humans, even at actually significantly higher doses than the dosage we propose in our product.
So now when you say that it's safe in human, you're not talking about the oleander plant itself. You're talking about the molecule that is extracted from that particular plant.
I'm talking about that molecule, exactly, and at the dosage we suggest. So in the same way, you can't go and drink half a bottle of vodka and expect things to go well. You can't take an enormous quantity of many kinds of molecules and expect things to go well. So we specify a particular dosage, and we've already tested this in a human trial, phase 1 and phase 2 FDA safety trials, albeit for a cancer therapy, but it was the exact same molecule as we're proposing here. So that work has already been done. It is a known fact.
Okay, let me ask you this here, Andrew. So this has already been tested in humans for the cancer trial, right? Does it really help with cancer?
So it actually helps with a number of different cancers. That specific cancer trial, that didn't go forward because the manner in which they administered the drug, it wasn't particularly successful for that type of cancer. That was a pancreatic cancer. And pancreatic cancer, as you probably know, is a terrible disease. It's a very, very aggressive type of cancer to go after. But that study, as far as we were concerned, wasn't a failure, because what it did do is it showed us that we can use this molecule very safely in humans, as long as you stay below a certain threshold. And that's what phase 1 and phase 2 clinical human trials are about. It's about establishing safety in humans and an approximate dosage. And just to give you a sense,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the level that we propose in the product we're going to suggest, and we'll come on to this in a minute, but in more detail, is 1/16 of what was used in those clinical trials. So it's a tiny fraction. And in fact, when we submitted a bunch of our data into the FDA, because we've been in this process with this proposed COVID treatment since April now. When we sent this in, one of the comments back from the FDA was, there's so little in what you're proposing. How do you imagine it's going to have an effect on anyone? Well, we have reason to think it will. We've had some very interesting data, which I can tell you about, but we also know that at that level, it is safe in humans, because we already did phase 1 and 2 clinical safety trials in humans.
Andrew, how did you come up on, I know we're in the midst of a pandemic, they're talking about COVID, we're talking about vaccines and therapeutic medicines. How did you come upon, wait a minute, we have something here that could possibly work for COVID-19?
That is a great question. So there we were, 25 years of research into this molecule, this great team of science, experts that we have in the company. They were doing a whole bunch of stuff on different types of cancer. And then one day there was a serendipitous discovery that it had important antiviral effects. And we actually ended up doing a bunch of different research on different viruses. 2 of the viruses we looked at, have you guys ever heard of Ebola?
Yes.
It's a particularly nasty virus. It has horrible effects on people. So we did a bunch of work with the US Army's lab at Fort Detrick. And it was lab-based work, but what it showed was there was a dramatic decrease in viral infectivity. And then they did the same thing with a virus called Marburg. And Ebola and Marburg, there is no known cure for those things. And again, it was the same thing, dramatic decrease in viral infectivity. So we thought, that's interesting. And then we saw it on 2, 3, 4 other types of viruses. And we thought, hold on, there's a pattern here. And it turns out all those viruses have something in common.
Yes.
And they're called envelope viruses. So that's a virus which has a strand of RNA with a protein, a glycoprotein wrapper around it. The way I always think about it, it's like a Snickers bar. It's got this central section with a wrapper over it, okay? And the wrapper protects it as it goes around, doing its business. Well, in the presence of our molecule, that wrapper is strangely no longer complete. When the virus makes copies of itself, the copies of the virus are missing a glycoprotein, so the wrapper is no longer complete. And we've actually documented this, and we've published data on it. Now, whether that is the reason why the infectivity drops, we can't definitively say, but what we can say is that the infectivity plunges and that wrapper is incomplete. So the hypothesis is join the 2. Well, guess what is also an envelope virus? COVID-19.
Right.
So coronaviruses generally are an envelope virus. So we thought, reasonable assumption, why don't we try it? So we called all the top labs in the country when the pandemic began, and we said, hey, can we test against this? And most of them said, we're way too busy, we're overwhelmed. But the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston in Texas, they're actually the World Reference Center for Infectious Diseases and arboviruses. They're one of the leading academic institutions in this country. They were also the first to do the genetic sequence on COVID-19.
Yeah.
They agreed to give us a test. So we went down there and we did the test. And what they found, they actually had to repeat the test multiple times because the results were so surprising. There was a 20,000-fold reduction in the viral infectivity within 24 hours. 20,000-fold within, that's 20,000 times, not 20,000%, 20,000-fold within 24 hours. So now that is only a lab-based test, so you can't run into the street screaming, "Eureka, we've solved it."
Right.
But what it does do is it tells you there's something there. And this is pretty cool.
So when you talk about it fell 20%, is that the viral load? Because whenever you get a virus, I know your counts may go up, like your white blood cell counts may go up. And so when you talk about this, are you talking about the viral load that the virus produced in the body to keep you sick?
Kind of. These things are all similar. So
Yeah.
20,000 times less, right? This is what happens. The viral infectivity decreases 20,000 times. This is huge. It's not like 20 times, 20,000 times. So just to kind of wind back a couple of steps, and forgive me if I'm telling you guys things you already know, but let's talk about how a virus works.
Come on.
Yes.
So the virus comes along and it says, okay, there's a cell I want to get after.
Right.
And typically the cells that are most susceptible for the virus to attack, they have a shape that the virus can fit into. And you know, they always talk about this COVID-19, it's got this protein spike on the top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that happens to fit really well with certain kinds of human cells. And one of those cells is what's called epithelial lung cells, so the lung lining. So that's why everyone's got the cough and they feel like they can't breathe. Well, COVID-19, that virus, it can find a location site on the surface of an epithelial lung cell and get in there. And then what happens is it injects that strand of RNA into the cell. And then that strand of RNA, and I'm simplifying here, but to illustrate the point, it takes over the cell. And instead of the cell doing what it's supposed to do, being an epithelial lung cell, it starts now just purely making copies of the virus. So the virus takes over, exactly, and starts making copies of itself. It's like a photocopier gone crazy, just like copies of itself coming out. And those are called the virus progeny, the children, if you like, the virus progeny. And then they move to the edge of the cell and burst out, and then they go and infect lots more cells. That's how, and that's why you feel sick when you've got a virus, because all your cells, instead of doing what they were supposed to be doing, they're now making copies of a virus, which are then infecting other cells. This is how it happens. So what would happen if the virus infectivity just plummeted? It just couldn't spread. It couldn't spread.
The replication of the cells just basically stopped replicating.
Okay, Andrew. So I have a question here. So if the coronavirus, COVID-19, is made up of SARS and HIV put together, is it possible? Is it possible that we may have a therapeutic medicine that can treat HIV, if not cure it, where people don't have to be on these medications that's very, very expensive and they don't have all of these side effects?
Well, there's an interesting question. So before I answer that, I must first say that the research I've described, that was done in a laboratory at University of Texas Medical Branch. So you can't run into the street yet and announce it's a cure. But what it shows you is a tremendous reduction in viral infectivity. Now, and then of course, what you then do is you say, okay, this is interesting. Let's do more tests. That's the logical thing to do. And remember, we already know this is not toxic. Why? Because we already did the human safety trials.
Right.
The FDA human standard for safety trials on the cancer application. So we know it's safe. And now we've got this lab data that says, you know,
Okay.
the infector. So to come back to your question, which is very interesting, it would tend to point in that direction.
Right.
But listen, we're not making claims, and we're not making claims. There is no cure for HIV/AIDS. There is no cure for COVID-19. But they're onto something,
right?
And I don't see anything wrong with people like this, trying to find different therapeutic things that can help people. You know, I don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Because here's the thing, you know, we know it's safe. We got a really interesting laboratory-based application. We're not asking for some carte blanche approval to go throwing stuff around in the public. All we're asking for is the opportunity to test it. And to have that opportunity, the FDA has to sign off on it and let us do it. So we just want to do it. Call our bluff. What's the worst that could happen? We already know it's safe. We've got some great indications. It would be a great opportunity to do that because it would be remarkable.
Okay, so let's talk about the FDA. So what's the holdup with the FDA? Because this here is not medicine. Wouldn't this be like a supplement?
Like a herbal?
So in terms of the FDA, if you want to have a new supplement, you can only make a supplement out of something that's already on something called the dietary list. And that's like the approved bucket of Lego bricks that you can build something from. If it's not in that bucket, you can't go building it. I mean, you can understand that to a degree because you can't have some guy decides he's going to mix up cyanide and arsenic and produce this great new thing. You know, there's got to be some control around this, and we totally get that. And the FDA's got a serious job to do, and they're inundated. They've got the weight of the world on them right now because we're all in this together and we're all trying to find solutions, right? But we've been in that process since April, ladies, and you know, we've dotted every I, we've crossed every T, we've jumped through every hoop. So it really hurts my heart when I hear people trying to suggest in the media that we've somehow just gone around the process and, you know, rung the front doorbell at the White House and the president's just said, oh, who are these crazy guys? Let's give them a shot. It wasn't like that at all. We've been going through this process since April. We've done it all right. We had that by the grace of God, we had the opportunity through Mike Lindell as well and his friendship to meet Dr. Ben Carson and show him some of this data. Right. And obviously his tremendous experience, and it's incumbent on Dr. Carson. He's a member of the coronavirus task force. You know, he's inundated with things coming in, but if he sees something that's got some compelling data, you know, one would hope he would show it to the coronavirus task force, and that's how the conversation happened.
I want Mike Lindell to chime in. Now, Mike, how did you stumble upon all of this to bring this to the forefront?
Well, I get calls ever since I spoke at the Rose Garden there, and I talked to some of the task force members there, and the vice president, the president, and I told them, I said, I hear, I'm like an information center. Everybody in the country calls me or emails me. I think everybody's got my number, I swear. They call me up and they give me all these great things, you know, from 24-hour sanitizers to 90-day sanitizers for rooms to different kinds of masks. Well, then on Easter Sunday, though, it was different. I got a call from Andrew, and he gets on the phone and he says, you know, I've got this, you know, just kind of what he's told you guys here. I've got this what I believe is the answer to this terrible pandemic, this virus. And I started listening in. He said it was from a plant called the oleander. And we talked for a couple hours, and I got out of my room there, and I was in a hotel actually in Arizona, and my gal's with me. She came out of the other room, and I said, "This guy's on the phone. He said he's got this. Might have the answer for this, and it comes from a plant, the oleander." She goes, "Well, that's what these are. Our whole hotel is surrounded by it." You know, so right away, my first call was to Dr. Carson, and you know, I turned my stuff into him if it's because he's on the task force, and I told him, and I'm not sure what he thought of me. You know, they probably thought this was a little crazy, but I connected him and the company and Andrew, and connected them, and so he got all the stuff I wouldn't know how to read. But what I did find out that they had passed phase 1 and phase 2, which means you can take it. It's completely safe to take. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to take it. So I was taking it. I'm going, you know, we're in a, you know, if it's safe to take it and it works, what a great thing, right?
Right.
And so I started taking it. I went all in. I took it. I had many of my friends and family that got the virus, gave it to them, and they were fine within 3 days, some of them 1 day. And so I have not, my personal successes have been 100% across the board. Any of my family members or friends or that I've given it to take as a prophylactic, none of them got sick. One of my nieces, she took it that way, and my aunt and stuff, they all got it in the household, and she didn't get it, but they all got well as soon as they took it. So when you want to believe in something, what better way to do your due diligence than do it, And once I heard it was safe, I had to heard it was safe, and I just said, I'm going to try it. Well, then, the company then, I kept at this, when you have something that you feel that is right, yeah. I'm not giving up. I'm going, I'm going all in. I'm going, you guys, do you have enough production? I was like consulting them. I'm very good at scaling stuff and predicting how much you're going to need, but this is an anomaly. I know, how much are you going to need when this comes out, if the FDA approved this? Everybody needed it. We get us all back to work if in fact that everything works out. Well, so they brought me on, and they brought me on just last week to the board to join the board and be able to, when this does get released, to try. I want to make sure everybody can get it.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right. So where are we at with the FDA? What are you all waiting on with the FDA?
Andrew can tell you that. I'm so patient. I just sit back, right?
That's right.
Okay, Andrew. So where are we at with the FDA?
So we're a good number of months into the process. They ask us for things, we send them in. There's this back and forth dialogue going on constantly, and it's difficult because obviously, in the last 2 months alone, enough Americans have died from COVID-19 to more than fill Madison Square Garden, and so you want to push and it just, we get up every day and we go at it as hard as we can. For something we already know is safe, we've got that great lab data from UTMB. We also have very compelling anecdotal data, which has been shared with the FDA in humans. So it's interesting. We have ongoing animal trials as well. So we believe we have something serious here. All we want is the opportunity to test it. And on the basis that we've already done FDA 1 and 2, phase 1 and 2 human safety trials, there's no downside to doing that. So what we want is an opportunity to test it in a hospital setting. That's what you have to do. And we've got a whole bunch of hospitals want to do that, but they can't move ahead without the permission from the FDA. So we're pushing on that.
Right. So let me just explain. You all just want to test it in humans before you even put it out there on the market.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
not like you're trying to just put something on the market. You want to be able to test this to make sure that you see the effectiveness of this before you even put it out.
So even
Absolutely.
down to our president signing the right to try, and for people that are really on their deathbeds, suffering from COVID-19, you want to also be able to test those individuals as well?
Yeah, we want to be able to make this available in a hospital setting, and we need the FDA's permission in order to do that. So the right to try is great, but you still need the FDA to sign it off. You can't just say I'm asserting the right to try and go ahead. You still need the FDA to sign it off. So
what is the FDA waiting on? What's happening here?
I can't answer that question. I'm not the FDA, but all I'm saying is we've been on the case since April with this. We've got this data from UTMB, which is compelling, and it's difficult. It's difficult and it's frustrating because we believe
it's called an IND. Andrew, will you explain an IND to them?
Yeah, we essentially need something called an IND number from the FDA in order to be able to run those tests.
Okay,
that's just to run the test.
So why haven't they given you the IND number? Have they said why you haven't gotten it?
Well, they come back and they ask us for more documents, so we're still filling in forms basically, and that's the issue of it. And at the same time, we've got what we believe is excellent data. We've made additional data available to them that we believe is compelling, and we're trying to follow that process, and but we know the safety's there because we already took it through phase 1 and phase 2 human clinical trials, and that is published, that is available, that is known. So there's no question about the safety here. So on that basis, and the fact that we've had very learned people like Dr. Ben Carson look at this, the man is no slouch, and so
No.
so the point is, it's why not? What's there to lose? We're all about safety, but what is there to lose at this point?
Right.
But there's everything to gain, and we all just want to get better. This is above politics, but it's being politicized, and that's my concern.
I was about to say, especially if everybody's talking about the health, why try to restrict something that could possibly save somebody's life
and help an individual?
Right. So I was going to just ask this question about hydroxychloroquine versus this particular substance product. So if I was to compare the two, I don't know if you can compare the two. Is there a difference between that besides the name?
Well, now you're homing in on the target. So this is interesting because I can't speak with great authority on hydroxychloroquine, but what I can tell you is this. Our product was, deemed safe because we'd done phase 1 and 2 human clinical trials when we were on the cancer application. The minute we pointed it at COVID, suddenly it's unsafe, it's dangerous, we're crazy, Mike's a snake oil salesman. Hydroxychloroquine, been sold for 50, 60 years.
Yes.
Perfectly safe because it's a treatment for malaria. I've had it. I've been to foreign countries, I've taken hydroxychloroquine for malaria, absolutely safe, no problem at all. The minute you talk about it, even in the context of COVID-19, it's the most dangerous thing on the planet. It's kind of like, Donald Trump wasn't a racist until he ran for office, was he?
That's what they
say. We ain't never looked at him as no racist.
No, exactly. So the point is, it just seems like there's this narrative that you get hit with the minute you say, hey, we've got something that might work here. Everybody loses their minds and goes crazy. We're not expecting some blanket approval. We just want to test.
Just want to test.
Look at what they did to me. Look what Anderson Cooper did to me when, all I did is go on his show. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just saying, hey, I know of a good solution that's sitting with the FDA, and hopefully when it comes out, we can get an IND and try it because it's safe. And then he tries to lie and tell me that it's not safe, but he never looked up the trials.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the left-wing media do. All you want is the ability to test it, to see if the public can handle it. I get that.
Yeah. So I understand that the Orlandia seeds and leaves, they're used to make medicine, of course, and it's used for like heart conditions, asthma, epilepsy, cancer, leprosy, malaria, ringworm, and so forth. So, and venereal diseases. So my question now is something about this word malaria. It's like we keep circling back to a lot of these different therapeutic medicines that's possibly good for COVID, but it seemed like a connection is there with malaria. Do you see that as you're studying this out, that particular connection?
It's interesting you draw on things like that because there are certainly a number of things floating around in that area. I couldn't draw a conclusion on that because again, I'm not the research scientist in the company. I would defer to them on that. But there's just one of the things that's really come out during the course of this pandemic is there are a lot of people coming to grips with perhaps what's been going on in the vaccine industry and perhaps what's been going on in the botanical and herbal extract industry. And I think people's minds are becoming much more open to different strategies in treatment and therapies. And I think people are starting to naturally question, where are the incentives behind all of this? What's really going on?
Who has a monetary investment into making a lot of money off of this,
like the vaccines, and even some of the therapeutic medicines cost as high as $3,000 to take in order to save your life.
Injected in you,
right? Like who is really behind that, and who is like profiting off of that?
Yeah.
So yes, it is a monetary thing that's going on. Somebody is getting the kickbacks and the patty wax skimming from the top again and leaving Americans left at the bottom. I do have
one more question that's on the tip of my tongue, but a closed mouth won't get fast. So I'm just gonna ask it. Okay.
Ask it.
COVID-19, this coronavirus thing, do you think it was man-made?
I don't think it was natural. Put it that way.
Okay.
All right.
That's just my opinion.
I mean,
That's just what we want to know.
Because I was told that this here is patented, and you can't patent something that is natural,
that came from the earth, from Mother Nature.
From Mother Nature, right? You can't patent that. You can only patent something that's man-made.
Right.
So if coronavirus, if this here is patented, then that lets me know it was man-made.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there are arguments on both sides of that, but there's an increasing weight of evidence that suggests it wasn't natural. But everyone's got to make up their own mind on that one.
Exactly.
So moving forward, what can we do as the American people to propel this to move forward? Because
especially with our immune systems and so forth, what can we do?
I got an answer to that. I think we need to pray that somebody gives us an IND number so it's safe. Let's try it. That's my opinion.
Okay. I love the power of prayer. Andrew, what do you think?
I think we would just like a fair hearing. I mean, I totally agree with Mike. The power of prayer is a wonderful thing, and it's something that that is truly inspirational for all of us. It's something that we really benefit from. But the key thing here is we need a fair hearing. We're not asking for anything unreasonable. We've already established safety in humans with phase 1 and phase 2 clinical human trials. That's already happened. It's known to be safe at the correct dosages. So all we're asking for here is an opportunity to be heard and to test. If this is a ridiculous botanical that's got nothing to it, why the massive coordinated negative narrative media onslaught? I mean, we're being pummeled on all these sorts of crazy accusations. What's everybody so worked up about? Why the drama if this is nothing, if it's so ridiculous?
Fear. Fear. Because if you come out with something that can truly help people, that's affordable, you have Big Pharma and all of these other people going to be upset because they can't continue to get their kickbacks and paddywhacks off the backs of the American people.
They can't make any money.
What it is.
They can't make any money. Look at how they're restricting hydroxychloroquine.
That could possibly help people.
Well, you have doctors. We had doctors to come out who actually treated patients and used this particular drug, hydroxychloroquine, and every patient recovered that they used it on. They are speaking from their experience, but you got these scientists that want to say that they're scientists, but they hadn't touched a patient.
Excuse me, you got one scientist with his pulse on the whole world talking about we have to do this and we have to do that, which to me is unacceptable. I say get a second opinion, because right now, if I'm going to look into a doctor, I'll be better off listening to Dr. Pepper and Dr. Seuss.
That's right.
That's right. Because I'm tired of it.
Because you had Dr. Glowian talking about we got to shut down the country, we got to flatten the curve, and now people's livelihoods are being flattened because of a virus that really have a 98% chance of recovery. And the medication, the different therapeutic medicines that can be used, they're restricting that. But they're going on trying to get these vaccines to take and implement and put drugs into people. I was looking at where in Massachusetts, they're making it mandatory for the students, the kids there, to get flu shot vaccinations, vaccines in order to go to school.
So they prepare you.
Yeah.
They prepare you. And that should not be thrown down the American people.
And if a drug dealer goes to jail for taking and swindling drugs and all of this stuff, what the heck is these doggone people doing right here? You trying to take it and make our kids into junkies with all of this doggone different stuff in their bodies that they don't even need. Let their immune system do whatever it needs to be done.
Right.
And if that's natural, the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nation.
Amen.
Let the trees. Right now, we need the trees.
We need the trees, baby. As we came from the dust, we need the earth.
That's with the last 9 months of an unprecedented global emergency and a national emergency, in spite of unlimited power and financial resources, the system has not delivered a single treatment, drug, cure, remedy, or therapeutic of any kind, or vaccine. Not a single one, in spite of all of that power and resource. So when people turn around and call us crazy for showing up with something that actually might work, which we already know is safe through phase 1 and phase 2 clinical human trials, which we've got some really great lab data on from a prestigious institution, how is that not worth giving it a shot? Where's the downside? That's all we're asking for, a test.
Wow.
Wow. Well,
It makes you ask the question, do they really want to get something for this to go away? Or do they want to use it as a weapon?
And a political, right, that's right, in a political, they're politicizing everything, and they're using this to do it.
That's right.
Listen, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on. Listen, would you promise to come back on to keep us updated as to what's going on with this particular product?
Hey, can I say one more thing here?
Yes.
The campaign chairman for Minnesota, I want to say today we are neck and neck, even, tied in Minnesota. The polls came out, and we haven't even started yet. That's what the Democratic leadership just doing it for us. They just keeps better. The president will be in the lead before we really put all our ads out. Woo!
Love it.
That's incredible. I believe it's going to be a landslide.
Yeah. Thank you, Minnesota.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike Lindell, and thank you, Andrew Whitney. I appreciate
Thank you, ladies.
God bless you all.
Thank you so much.
And good luck.
God bless you.
For all
Thank
that
you.
do.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it. Now we're going to keep you all updated and informed on this. On what's happening with this here. Because if they allow them to test to make sure that it is effective, this is a huge game changer.
That's right.
Listen, in between time, until the next time, we'll see you all later.
Bye-bye.
Another thing about how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, "I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill." You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill, as you remember.
I know that.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Mass incarceration has put hundreds of thousands behind bars for minor offenses. Joe Biden wrote those laws.
Every major crime bill that's come out of this Congress has had the name Joe Biden on that bill. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill.
Joe Biden's policies destroyed millions of black lives. Joe Biden may not remember, but we do.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Take a look at my record, man.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I marched with tens of thousands of others.
He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement and kept telling the story anyway.
I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff.
Now, his aides went back to say, look, he was in office marching for the idea.
That's not what the word marching means.
Twitter. I was not out marching.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
They're gonna put you all back in chains.
And you ain't black.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black.
The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race.
You ain't black.
We're red, white, and blue.
That's right. He can run, but he won't be able to hide his record. He can run, but he won't be able to hide his record. But he won't be able to hide his record.
We're red, white, and blue.
That's right. We're American.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
My administration will take all necessary steps to safeguard our citizens from this threat.
Hysterical xenophobia.
Giving Americans a false sense.
Is it accurate that if these steps had not been put in place, it could have been 2 billion people dead here in the United States?
Yes. No matter how hard they try to stop us, they can't. We built the greatest economy the world has ever seen, and we're going to do it again. Together, we're beating back the invisible enemy.
What the federal government did was a phenomenal accomplishment.
Through it all, the world has witnessed the unyielding resolve of our incredible American people.
Promise made, promise kept.
And I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have. And you know that. With the grace of God, we will win this war, and we will win this war quickly. And we will make America great again.
Hey y'all,
Hey.
It's Diamond and Silk. Now you know us from our videos, our book called Uprising, and our time with the president.
And guess what, y'all?
What?
We have a podcast.
That's right. You can hear from us every week. Get the real news. None of this fake media spin.
And girl, you know they fake as hell.
We're going to interview the people backing our president and making things happen in Washington. We are going to bring you real stories from real America. It's Diamond and Silk, the podcast. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
So be ready to press play to hear what Diamond and Silk have to say.
Hey y'all,
Hey.
come on in.
Come on.
Go to diamondandsilkbook.com. That's diamondandsilkbook.com. Hey y'all, join us on Chattit. That's ChatDit.com. We want to see your face in the place.